And welcome everyone to another episode of Satsang for the Soul with our delightful Lee Green. Lee Green is a dear friend of mine, an amazing musician, and a potent wisdom keeper as well here on this time on this earth. And Lee is joining you from the Philippines. My name is Mark Bentley. I am joining you from Perth in Western Australia. And this session you're joining us for now is really just an opportunity to take a moment out of time to reconnect with that flow, that evolutionary flow, this energy that kind of we're living our lives upon, that kind of drives us within us. So nothing we say here is declared as truth, but rather contemplations around, what comes up for us when we look at this through the lens of the Mayan Dreamspell. So if you are watching live, that is awesome. Thanks for being here. Please do drop a comment in. If you're seeing this somewhere on DSO, BitClout, Diamond App, one of the other decentralized platforms, then you can join us live by going to cloutforum.org. So that's clout, CLOUTFORUM.org. And you'll find links there to join us either on Twitch, YouTube, or live here in the Zoom room as well. And part of our tradition is to help celebrate the work and inspire people out there. Anyone who's watching live, if you the first person to put in a comment, we'd love to offer you a free mini dream spell reading towards the end of this session. So it'll be a little 5-minute or so spin on your personal galactic Mayan signature, which is always a lot of fun. So please do chuck a comment in there and let us know you're here. Now, with that being said, I would love to invite our dear Lee Grain to start us off with one of her beautiful songs. How you doing, Lee?
Good morning, everyone, from Manila. And hi, Mark. Good to see you again.
Hey. Always a pleasure, my dear.
For us, it's a happy yellow self-existing warrior day. Starting off with a song. Cheers to whatever you're drinking. Here's my coffee. What are you having, Mark? Water? Pure.
Nice, clean water. I've already had, it is part of my ritual though, Lee, a nice double espresso. Very neat, no sugar, nice and strong is my preferred start to the morning with the fresh, cool air outside.
Wow, that sounds yummy. My preference, since I'm from Batangas, where we have really good coffee called Barako coffee. So I like my French pressed coffee in the morning with a little bit of milk and some muscovado sugar. Yum.
Muscovado, that's that. Is that richer?
Yeah.
Yeah, delicious. I'm looking forward to when I get to come visit, Lee, and then you can make me a cuppa in life.
Absolutely. So I was choosing a song to share as the first song of the day, and this is a song from Desiree called You Gotta Be. Listen as your day unfolds, challenge what the future holds, try and keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears, go ahead, release your fears, stand up and be counted, don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser, you gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger, you gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. Errol, what your mother said, read the books your father read. In your own sweet time, some may have more cash than you, others take a different view. My, oh my, hey. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser, you gotta be tough, you gotta be hard, you gotta be stronger, you gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. Time asks no questions, it goes on with you, leaving you behind if you can stand the pace. The world keeps on spinning, you can stop it, you try to stand the danger staring you in the face. Listen as your day unfolds, challenge what the future holds, try and keep your head up to the sky. And lovers, they may cause you tears, go ahead, release your fears, stand up and be counted, don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser, you gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger, you gotta be cool, wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. Love will save the day.
Love will save the day. Love truly will save the day. You know, Lee, that was couldn't have thought of a better song to start today's satsang. I think you nailed it on that one. So for those that are watching, and are new to this, we're tracking the Mayan Dreamspell, which runs in what we call wave spells, so 13-day periods that have an evolutionary theme, a kind of energy or theme that collectively we'll all be working on and individually, and it's supporting us in a certain area of our lives. And so this 13-day wave spell that we're in the 4th day right now is known as the Red Skywalker wave spell. So the Red Skywalker wave spell has the affirmation, which I'll read right now, which says, I unify in order to explore. Attracting wakefulness, I seal the output of space with a magnetic tone of purpose. I'm guided by the power of my own power doubled. So this is the energy, the Skywalker that we're in right now. This is an energy that is inviting us to dare to explore the territory between heaven and earth. Is this energy that whispers to us and calls to us. You know, it's the Gandalf on Bilbo Baggins's door in The Hobbit, right? Knocking on the door. That's the Skywalker energy. And the dreamer is the opposite, the antipode of the Skywalker, which is like the one, like Bilbo Baggins, that would sit there with his pipe and would dream these fantastical dreams. But Bilbo, he wouldn't talk about it to his other hobbits, right? Because it was a shameful thing to want adventure. It was a shameful thing to want this kind of exploration. You know, the hobbits, their life, the respected life was to be there to serve food and to be in service to your local community in that way. And so Bilbo Baggins would keep this impulse that he was ashamed of deep inside himself. He wouldn't talk about it. He would keep it there. But the universe knows, and the universe listens, and the universe came and knocked on that door with Gandalf, and against his will, all of a sudden, adventure found him and called him out. And then through the story of the Hobbit, and then into the Lord of the Rings with Frodo, you know, his lineage, we start seeing this adventure of, you know, going from being a dreamer with no connection to reality and the reality of adventure, to not only being, you know, taking on the adventure and listening to that impulse, but we watch how Bilbo Baggins learns, explores, discovers strength that he never knew he had, you know, discovers compassion that he never knew he had. He discovers all of these skills and talents that were inside of him the whole time he was just serving tea and smoking his pipe. But it takes challenge, it takes adventure. We need to go out and explore. We need to come up against our opposites in order to see contrast, to feel what's real, what's not, what's love, what's hate, what's connection, what's disconnection. And it's only through experimentation, through going out there and trying, that we can never really find that. And to me, that's the process of wakefulness. That's the process of awakening that can sometimes get lost in this sense of like escaping the planet or this life. But rather for me, this Skywalker is saying, open your eyes. I know it's scary. I know people will challenge your dream. They will call you stupid. They will say you're silly. It's ridiculous. All these different things. But you need to have the courage to explore anyway. Because when you move through that challenge, you will find strength you never had. You never knew you had. You will find talents that you always felt was possible but thought was just a dream. And there will be resistance. But if you dare to answer that call to adventure, then during this wave spell, I think we've got a pretty amazing time to really stretch ourselves. So that's my intro rant, Lee.
Beautiful. To start with awakening. You nailed it right on the head. I'm looking at the chart right now. Skywalker really is about exploring space outside of ourselves. And in a way, it helps us to orient who we are in relation to everything else around us. As within, so without, as above, so below. And this archetype that is guiding this 13 days called the Red Skywalker is about as above. When you look up into the stars, when we start to see a big picture of where we are on the planet as we are moving seamlessly across the universe on this time ship, this planet Earth, and how we are connected to everything else outside of us in a bigger scale, space, and space itself is so vast. So a lot of the people, if you find yourself with a red Skywalker archetype, these are usually, I find these people are the explorers, so to speak. They like to be exploring different places, and it's kind of very, the challenge for them is the other side of it, which is the inner travel. So wanting to go out there and explore space, and at the same time, again, that challenge of inner exploration is also the strength. I love that dance of challenge and strength, that antipode in the chart. And yeah, it's beautiful when we think of the Red Skywalker and how it can really help us awaken as planetary consciousness. When we start to think bigger, when we start to think that we are not just one planet, but maybe perhaps there are other consciousness out there that is also existing. We just can't see them, but it's there, and so many things right now on the planet, disclosure, things that when we start to talk about consciousness, I want to say consciousness instead of extraterrestrial. Sometimes it's far out to think that way because of what it symbolizes in our mind. It's like some pigment of imagination. But consciousness itself is sometimes not physical. But perhaps when we look back to our distant past, these are the consciousness that have sent forth advanced technologies to build things like the pyramids, and how we were able to create or have such structures on the planet that have withstand the test of time, thousands of years. No other outside forces is able to crumble these, like the pyramid and other what we would call strange things on the planet, around the planet, the Stonehenge and all of these. Still up to this day, we're still trying to figure out who built it and how, because in our current mind, however advanced we are, we still cannot replicate the things what they did to create these amazing monolithic structures. And so this is what Red Skywalker represents for me.
I love
that
it.
Exploration.
I think it's I'm really glad you're bringing this up, Lee, because it blows my mind over the last year how little conversation has happened around the fact that it's pretty much globally accepted that UFOs are real, being unidentified flying objects, not saying exactly what and where they are from. But we've got the American government's released it, the military, they've got all the videos, they've had mass sightings, they've seen everything. And it's been admitted and acknowledged now officially that there are things moving in the sky that are beyond our physics. I mean, that's a pretty big statement. I don't think many people have actually comprehended. The Skywalker is almost like, Lee, that tendency where I'm sure we've all done it before, where we kind of like someone tells us something, just insane, like mind blowing. But it's like we almost don't have the capacity, the visual capacity to actually visualize what they're actually saying, to actually fully comprehend the depths of what they're saying. So it's almost like we just hear the surface of the words. Oh, the government has acknowledged UFOs are real. We've seen them around the Navy ship. They are breaking our laws of physics. We're not sure where they come from. Now, these words, people go, oh. And then it's like a part of the brain that goes, this is too foreign to me. I don't have the words to process this. I don't have the physics. I don't have these programs. And so what kind of seems to happen is it gets rejected, right? It just kind of gets rejected without dropping in. So people, will just go, oh, okay, yeah, cool. How was the footy last night? Or they'll move on to another question. It'll just be a distraction, right? From rather than going, hey, here's a clue. Let's answer this doorbell and explore it and see what's in there. And so I'm glad you're bringing it up, because around the world right now, it's not just about these, aerial phenomenon that have been acknowledged that are breaking our laws of physics, but we are seeing things like this in every possible field. In all of the studies in government, we're seeing, forced mandates and all these different things, which is stretching a territory we haven't had to touch for a long time. And even in the conversations there, it's a very hard thing to have a conversation, because it's not something we've really experienced before ourselves in this generation. So we've got all these little things that are going on all around us, and they're provoking us to snap out of our comfort and start exploring, to start adventuring and start saying, what does this mean then? What does this mean with that over there? What does it mean with this over here? What does that mean for me? Does it mean anything for me? And beginning that exploration, because it's one of those things where, I was in the shower this morning, Lee, contemplating today's energy and what it was about. And around this topic, I was really dropping into this feeling of, people have often said to me, Mark, you're such a good storyteller. You just tell things so vividly and visually and all this. And I wasn't always like that. Lee, it's like when I was a teenager, I didn't think I was creative at all. I was very intellectual, but visually I was very blank. And what has allowed me to open up that fairy tale teller, that ability to tell stories, to adventure, to be open-minded enough to explore any topic you bring to the table, it comes from the fact that when I was 17, I went out as an exchange student to Norway, my motherland, and I lived there for a year. And then from that point on, I realized I just want to know what life's about. So I just started saying yes. I said yes to everything that came across my path, for better or worse. I had insane adventures. I almost died in motorcycle accidents. We ended up in crazy parts of the place. I had thousands of dollars stolen off me in Ecuador. I was on the back of a ute with these Ecuadorian kids doing a circus show in the middle of a hotel in some random place. All these adventures happened because I said yes. I don't know whether this is a good idea or where it's going, but something inside me has an adventure here and I'm going to explore it. And because of all of this life experience, I get to my 40s now, and I'm a lot more settled and grounded than I was during those more adventurous times. But now I've got this language. I've got this entire database of visual aspects, of experience, of tastes, of smells, of human characteristics and personalities, and all of these things that have been like a smorgasbord of my life that I've been able to consume, through my experiencing. And now when someone talks to me, I can hear what they're saying because I've heard so many variants of the way people think and feel. It helps me to hear them properly, right? To understand where they're coming from. And then it helps me then know how better ways to explain my ideas to them. And so this has really just kind of triggered off what you're saying with, you're sharing, that all of these things are very much outside of our mundane reality, right? There is heaven on earth for those that have the eyes to see it, the ears to hear it, right? And so, but in order to be able to read a book, you have to learn how to read. You have to discover words. You have to explore them, right? And so that's where I see that this energy is really saying, hey, instead of just disregarding things because you don't have the language for them yet or they seem so foreign, why don't you just have a play? Just test it out. Go in there. And you know what? It could be a load of crap. And that's totally fine,
Lots to explore. And I think going back to what you were sharing in the beginning, it's easier to just change the subject when it comes to things that we don't understand. And I think a big part of it is because we have set our foundational beliefs onto something. And when you start to question that, and when reality starts to give you things that we're told to you that it's not possible to do that, to have that, for example. And I would just, with all due respect, to reference um, things like the Bible. And if it says in the Bible that we are the only creations of God, and all of a sudden you will have proof of beings that are not from this earth, that don't probably look like us, ships that are not from here. And that will start to question the validity of that book and everything else that is ever written there, which is the basis of the foundation of your belief in who you are and how you orient yourself in the world. So once you start to question that foundation, even if this is making sense, you would fight it, because then your whole world is just going to crumble because it's held up by this foundational belief. So you will protect the very belief system that you are indoctrined into, or that you grew up into, even if it's being questioned already in terms of its validity, because that's the only thing that you know, because it means that your whole world is going to crumble apart and you will not know what is the truth. And that is the scary thing. It's like, for example, if you're in a relationship and this is your relationship, you have 5 children with this person, you have a family, and you start to hear maybe that this person is cheating, or there is another person, there's a third party, and you're like, no, that's not happening, that's not happening, this is my world, he's my partner, or she's my partner, we have children. And you will still protect that person to the person who's telling you that, hey, I think I've seen this, I think I've seen your partner out with someone, I mean, I could be wrong, but it looks just like them. And you'd be like, you're lying to me, get out, you're trying to ruin my relationship, why can't you just let me and my family be happy and leave us alone, don't try to ruin our family, we're happy here. So it's this denial that sometimes comes over us when we are so scared of a looming possibility that what you think in your heart is true could not be true. And so you would protect it, even if you have a hunch that it could be, what they're saying could be true. And you just close your eyes because you just want to maintain status quo, because it's easier that way. Otherwise, you're looking at a life where you're possibly going to have a divorce. What's going to happen to your kids not having your partner around, and they're going to have to open their eyes to a new reality, and your whole entire world and understanding of who you are is going to crumble, and you just don't have that mind space to hold all that. That makes sense. Maybe that's what's coming to me as
Absolutely.
as how I can relate that kind of information to something that is personal to us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm hearing you loud and clear on that. And I think it ties so beautifully to today's archetype, the fourth day being the yellow self-existing warrior. It's I define in order to question. It's if we want to awaken, it's there's an old saying, I can't remember where it comes from, where the quote is, Lee, but it's around this idea that it's not about finding the right answer. People go through life thinking they're looking for an answer, but like Richard Rudd, I think, from the Gene Keys once said that all truth is a paradox, right? So if it's not a paradox, it's not really truth, because we try to look at answers within the duality of like this very limited perception that we have within a human form, and we're very restricted, right? But they say it's not about finding the right answer, it's about finding the right question. And I think it was Ra Uru who in Human Design once said that everyone has a question, which is like a key to their awakening. And life is about exploring until you find that one question that just pops you open and cracks you open and releases that spirit within you into the world. And over the years, I spent my life chasing these answers, and I started realizing how powerful that was. And there's a lot in that kind of ties into what you were just sharing around we're so used to giving answers to people, thinking that if there's a problem with our beliefs, if you and I disagree on something, then the only way out is if I give you the answer that I think is right and you agree to it, or I have to agree to your answer. Otherwise, we're not going to, and rather than that, what I've come to discover is, exactly what you've been sharing, Lee, that people can only open up so much at a time, right? And if you open them too quickly, they go into psychosis. It's a terrifying experience to go from being fully asleep and ignorant. And I say that in the most respectful ways. Ignorant is not a slander. It's ignorant is just not knowing there are any other options. That's the definition, in a sense, of being ignorant, is you're unaware of these other options, these other things. And so part of this sleeping ignorance, it's a safe place. And it's just like in the Matrix, the red pill, blue pill. It's this idea of, are you sure you want to awaken to the full matrix of reality? Yeah, are you ready for that? Because, and a lot of people would choose not to. And even at times in my life, I sometimes wish I could have taken that pill and gone back to that ignorance, because there's a comfort there. And one thing that I've been seeing is, especially right now around the world, where there's so many people triggering, there's so many lies, there's so much dishonesty, there's so much confusion, there's so much complexity, that people are in very defensive positions at times. And I've watched that if I try to give answers to people, what I think are the answers, I mean, I don't know if it's the truth, but if I do that, then I'm more likely to get what you're saying, is like this defensiveness, this protection that says, don't take my belief from me. I don't have anything. Like, there's no, government's unreliable. I don't want to believe the government's unreliable. I want to believe that, because if I have to believe the government's unreliable, then I've got nothing that I can trust. I've got no mother, father figure anymore. And I'm all alone in a world, and it's terrifying. Different people have different experiences like this. And so rather, like, really speaking to that point, if we can learn how to, or evolve our capacity in a sense, for really giving more credit to finding the right question for people. So rather than tell them what you think is the answer, ask them questions about their own beliefs. Ask them, be curious, find out. And if there's a genuine curiosity within your questioning, then you might just find, right, that you hit a question that is in their safe realm, that does open up a window that allows them to see a little bit more than what they were seeing. And sometimes that's all that somebody can digest in that moment. And the visual that always comes is, like deep sea diving. I think Abraham Hicks talked about this at one point, but it's like ignorance, and when we're lost in that world, it's like we're deep in this ocean of the subconscious, like behaviors, and we're kind of held down by the weights of our beliefs and our baggage and all these things. Mm-hmm. And if we come along and force feed someone what we think is truth, especially if we're right and it is the truth, then if they let go of all that baggage at once, they're going to zoom straight up from those depths of the ocean to the surface so quickly. And anyone who knows anything about deep sea diving knows that that is incredibly deadly, right? Because if you go from the depths of the ocean, in fact, if you've been deep sea fishing, the fish actually explode. It's quite disgusting, right? Because of the pressure change of the depths to the surface. So what divers have to do is they have to come up and take pauses. They have to stop and slow down. And then they begin again and slow down. Otherwise, they pop out the top. They get blood bubbles and things in their blood, and they have to go into compression chambers to try and stop them from dying, right? And so this is something that I think is a very good metaphor for the process of awakening, in that sense.
Wow, that speaks to the Blue Knight archetype, which is the challenge of the Red Skywalker. That pressure when you start to go down to the depths. And metaphorically speaking, there it comes with a lot of pressure when we start to go down, and down meaning into the depths and the shadows of our psyche, in our shadow perspective, or just inner exploration, not necessarily shadow. But when we start to really tune in inside.
I love that you're bringing that up, Lee, because it's really like, as you're saying that, because there can be that thing of like, the dreamers think, well, I see the dream, I see the vision, everyone else is ignorant. And then you have the skywalkers out there exploring, looking and finding, but they might not be connected to the dreamers strongly. And they're sitting there thinking, oh, they're just dreamers. This is the reality, right? And it's interesting that it really is like the skywalkers are like on the top, on the surface of the water, looking to the skies to go even higher. And the dreamers are going deep into the depths. And just like you're saying, it's not just divers going up that causes pressure problems. You also can't go down deep fast either, because again, you'll get insane pressure problems. So it is a good analogy to be able to look at the Blue Knight and the Skywalker, that when the two meet, when a dreamer meets a Skywalker, how it creates this intense kind of paradox where they're trying to draw each other into their own depths. And it's like, when really we need patience. It takes time to adjust the pressure when you're together.
But what a beautiful imagery, though, when I think about the two coming together and sharing gifts with each other. Like, what have you found in the depths of your search? And what have you found in the heights of your search? And let's share what we find out together, and how we can strengthen each other, and how whatever we explore, whether we explore above or we explore below, it meets in the middle world. So the upper world and the lower world is necessary to guide us in our middle world, which is here, our middle world journey, to find that balance. And that's what I love about the dream spell. The dream spell with the archetypes, it provides polarity, which is which validates that in this plane we live within the law of duality and polarity, that the other can only be as strong as its opposite, and there has to be that balance. And for something to make sense, there's something that has to be an opposite of that. To even contemplate, when we think of polarities of how, the negative and the positive, the good and the bad, there won't be any good without a description of what is bad. And we wouldn't know that something is bad if we don't know what is the opposite of that, which is good.
Absolutely. I think as a child, sometimes, it's, I think back to when we're children and we have these incidents, these moments in our lives that we push our boundaries a little bit. The ego is starting to form. We start stretching a little, and we do things that, we end up carrying for our lives that we might not be proud of. There's things that, and in hindsight, they're no big deal, but at the time, the shame and the feeling, and this is something that I love about, this work that we kind of do, the wisdom keeping work, and whatever your tool of choice is really coming to understand these things like shame, guilt, and the different other core wounds of humanity, that they were never meant to be carried past that moment. That they're a momentary experience that's there to help us recalibrate. Like, it's that challenge, it's that balancing effect that can, the shadow as such, like you're saying, that kind of gives us something to go, didn't feel good, did it? It's like, no, it didn't feel good. Okay. Don't have to continue feeling ashamed of it. Now, change your behavior. If you don't change, if you keep doing it and you decide that's what you're going to do forever, then maybe that shame belongs there until, the feeling, until you're ready to adjust and to the responses. But yeah, they're powerful things to experience. And I think we should never get rid of, but we shouldn't carry them like badges. We shouldn't carry it like baggage, in that sense, but rather digest it, learn the lesson, and keep growing, keep exploring. And for that, we need forgiveness. We need to be able to forgive each other. But I'm not who I was 10 years ago. That's not me. That's my legacy. That's my learning journey. And for all of it, you know, we need to forgive ourselves as well.
Awakening, wakefulness, that's the essence of the archetype of Skywalker. And I'm looking here at this wave spell: space, explore, and wakefulness, and what it takes to be awake. We are in the yellow self-existing warrior day here, and it's the 4th day, and yellow warrior is all about fearlessness, and like you said, asking the right questions, because we can choose to remain asleep, and that's not a way to describe someone that thinking of my words before I dive into this, because there's so much around the word woke that is used on both sides, you know. I mean, people who are woke probably won't say that they're woke, because the more you identify with that word, the more that you are not. Does that make sense? Like the
It's
sages,
the greatest paradox.
the sages, they won't say that they are self-realized being. They don't need to prove that they just are. And so this state of wakefulness, and what are we waking up to? First, you have to use your intelligence. Ask intelligent questions, because it's the intelligence that is going to guide the flowering of truth that you're trying to find out. Ask with intelligence. Tap into that. And that's really what the yellow warrior is all about. It's the power of intelligence. Is a state of quality of the mind. And again, this is self-existing for me to define, form, and measure. We also have to polish the mind. A mind that is dull is not able to tap in its most intelligent operation. Does that make sense? Operating in that way, in its highest possible way that we can use the mind for, because mind is our tool. We can use the mind as a tool while we are traveling here, our consciousness here, and learning here in this plane. And so we have to also give the mind things to sharpen it. We have to, do practices in order to allow the mind to sharpen its focus. Meditation, or you can do prayer, whatever tradition that you are comfortable in. Silence. Allow the mind to not just go wherever it wants to go, just like a horse. I love that analogy. Our mind is like a horse, but we have to be able to ride this horse so we can reach our destination. Some of us, our horse just takes us everywhere. You're on the horse, but the horse just say, "Oh, I want to go this way and this way and this way," and we don't have the reins. And so when we have the reins, it means we have the ability to direct the focus of the mind. And self-existing, I think, when you have the capacity to train your mind to be at your service when you need it to, you can truly use it to further see things for what they are. See things from a clear perspective. Again, the yellow warrior is all about questioning what it's seeing. So in the world right now that we see in our wakefulness, not just in space, but what's happening in our communities, in our country, what's happening in the world outside of us, the physical world. In the time of pandemic, so many people are suffering. This is a good time to ask why. Where is the help? There are systems put in place supposed to be to support populace, the people. And the yellow warrior is that archetype that fearlessly asks questions that we are afraid to ask with the power of intelligence. And when it's seeing something that doesn't work, it's like, okay, this pandemic situation, what's happening here? Why is only a few people making money and the rest of the people are not being supported financially, and there's so much suffering? And so what is wrong? So when we start to ask the questions, we start to explore. And when we start to do that, of course, when you ask a question, you're inevitably going to get the answer. And this is why the power of intelligence is so important, because you can have the answer right in front of your face. But if you're not bright enough to see it, it could be glaring right in front of you. It still missed the mark, which is in our word, in Filipino word, it's called sayang. It's like, missed opportunity, because it's right there in front of you and you can still call it out for what it is.
Yeah.
Whatever that is for you.
And you know, it's as you're saying that, Lee, it's that when we say intelligence as well, right? I think one of the things that has been lost over the years is this confusion where people think it means intellect, right? And they're two very different things in my personal eyes. And I think it's that thing of intelligence is heart intelligence, right? We look at heart coherence, when the heart and mind are coherent, right? When the mind is in service to the heart gives the impulse, and then the mind questions and finds out how to make it reality. And in that sense, you know, I think it ties into what you were just sharing about how, you know, when people have that answer right in front of them, that they can't hear it because they don't have coherence. They don't have heart and mind coherence, but rather their heart is blocked off because of wounding and fear and disconnection. And rather they've got their reptilian survival part of the brain driving the intellect, which means it thinks it knows the answer. I've seen this before. This is dangerous. This is how we deal with it. We shut it down. We exercise it. We kick it out of the village. Whatever the historical kind of ways of dealing with change that's terrifying kicks in place because we don't have heart coherence. We can't listen. We can't hear because our hearts aren't open. And so I think it's such a powerful contemplation what you're bringing in. Absolutely. But yeah, and you know, Lee, this brings me to our dear friend Vasumi, who I've mentioned a few times on this platform, and she once gave me a contemplation and a question. You know, she helped me understand this concept of questions a long time ago when I first started teaching the Dreamspell work. You know, and I was very nervous about it, and everyone in the community was very supportive. I was very fresh in the world, and they said, "Look, you're built for this. You know, do it." And but I was terrified because I felt like if I'm going to teach this work, I need to be able to answer every question they ask me, right? It's like, otherwise, who am I to call myself an expert to teach this work or to, you know, do all those things and charge money for workshops and all this kind of stuff? And then I'm pretty sure it was Vasumi. It was either Shani, but I think it was Vasumi that originally said it. And I'm pretty damn sure about that. And she was saying, you know, question, you know, break it down. Quest, I, on. Vasumi is a magician with words, right? So question, quest, I, on, when you break down the spelling. And so when you really bring that in, I use this all the time in human design readings now, because a question is about a quest that I am on. If I'm asking you, Lee, a question, I might phrase that question about you. I might say, "Oh, Lee, how are you going to progress forwards with DSO or this or that or something else?" Right? I'm asking because deep down inside, I'm relating that to my life, my experience, my journey. How does that change your relationship to me in different ways? in an unconscious kind of way. Because, and it's not so much about being selfish in a negative way, but it's a case of, we're designed to have experiences, and therefore any question is about, how does this, where is my part in this? How does it relate to me? What is this? So people will often, when we dare to speak our dreams, turn from the dreamer to the awakener, to take it out into the waking world and dare to speak it out loud, people will cut at us. They will try and shut us down, because, as you were talking about earlier, it threatens a lot of the pins that hold their feeling of safety, and they're very fragile. You start taking away the things that keep their story together, then so what they will do is they will ask questions to try and prevent that from happening. They'll say, oh, but how's that going to happen? How are you going to do that? How are you going to pay for this? How are you going to pay? That's their own fear that's being projected out in the form of a question. And people can often make it sound like they really, really are asking it for you. They'll even say things like, hey, this doesn't matter to me, but I just want to ask you, are you sure about this? Have you done this? Yada, yada, yada. And if you really drop in and become fully present, you can feel the difference between a truly, selfless question that's inspired and one that's driven by fear. And if people are asking you questions, and that question doesn't relate to your quest, your personal quest, your personal experience, then you don't need to answer. You have no response. You don't need to. Your ability to respond is to say, hey, that's a great question. I've never really had to contemplate it. It's not something that really resonates with me. It's something I need to look towards. I've got other questions that are driving me. But hey, all the best in finding that answer for yourself. And you give the power back to them, right? That's your quest. Don't mistake it for my quest just because you're asking me, and that really liberated me when it came to teaching workshops, because I realized I'm not teaching the Mayan Dreamspell classical traditional version. I'm not sitting here claiming to be an expert in anything. I'm a storyteller that's experienced and tracked these evolutionary waves for so long, and I see patterns, and so I want to teach that. I want to teach what I've discovered, but I'm not teaching truth. That's my adventure, my journey.
That's beautiful. And in a way, it's like I can relate to so many things that you're saying, So when I started to step into sharing this with my community, who have never heard of anything like it, but I just had this urge and this feeling, this passion to share it, because I wholeheartedly believe in its teachings and how it can deprogram our mind and start to live more aligned with a living system that is nature, that is the natural time. That's the driving intention of what got me started in sharing more actively about the dream spell. And I always say, I don't represent the Mayan culture or where this is from. I don't claim to know everything. But what I do share are things that I can validate from experience. And of course, with intelligence, you also have to read. And you can't just like make things up from the fabric of your mind that this is what it means. You also have to back it up with some truth based on people like Jose Arguelles, who really have given us this amazing body of work. And that coupled with your own personal experience is really powerful, because each and every single person has a different experience of the dream spell or a living system. We have our own way of sharing it. And what I do love is when people ask questions, and some people ask questions because they're already set on proving it wrong. Because when you start to talk about concepts that this is a Syrian transmission, it's received by the Mayas from consciousness that come from the Sirius star system, and things like that, things that you've probably never heard of before. And this is also my learning, is that there's no need to prove anything. And at the same time, when people ask certain questions that even I have never asked, for me, it says, I don't know. I don't even claim to know I know everything. But I'm here to share what it is that I do know. and yeah, like you say, perhaps I can also like look it up and see the answer to that question and how it relates to what I'm sharing. So thanks. Always brings it in a wider perspective, and at the same time it's freedom from really taking a seat of a teacher, because to me it's not about a lecture. So it's harmonic in a sense that it puts you in a circle. You're just sharing your wisdom or your experience of the dream spell, but you sit in circle with them. That doesn't make you someone that is better because you know more cosmic knowledge and you're tapped in and you have this transmission and this and that. And it's this hierarchy that sometimes it's easy to assume that when you think you know more. So it's an invitation to continuously be humble, because the more you know, the more humble you will become. And I love this old proverb about the bamboo. The taller that a bamboo gets, the lower it bends.
Lee, I think that's a perfect moment to call this conversation. And it's amazing how fast that time flies through. And then you just drop this perfect little, taller the bamboo, the lower it bends. I like that. And I think we see that in the ones that we hold honorable, the ones in the history, the stories, the movies, the rest. It's when you see that greatness on its knees in front of the innocence of a child, and in that vulnerability. And I think that's a really beautiful thing.
I love that. And I think it also speaks about the Red Skywalker, right? The taller it gets or the farther we explore into space, the contemplation of, wow, when you really open up to that heart and mind coherence and understanding really what you're exploring is something, wow, amazing. This can be of service to the people of the planet. The more that you want to ground that, the more you want to be in service of what you are exploring. Because I think that in the bigger picture, we're all here in service of the one mind, the one the one consciousness that had split itself in millions, trillions of ways to experience its own self. And everything we are exploring is in service of that one essence that seeks to know itself through multitude of ways. And so we share what it is that we find. By doing that, it gives more purpose and more. Oops, that's my Healy. Yeah, so I love it.
That's juicy.
Yeah. And when we look at the calendar, that's really what happened. Just a last nugget. I love this because Julius Caesar, the one who, during that time when the calendar was created, it's the superiority that he needed more days in the month that's dedicated to him. And so this ego, the superiority over people, this is what happens sometimes when we reach the higher heights. But it's an invitation to stay low, stay humble, and use that in service for all beings.
Oh,
I'll let you do some parting closing.
Beautiful.
Word.
All right, while you get yourself ready. So no, thank you, Lee. That was a beautiful closing there. And it's always amazing how timeless, these sessions together are. It feels like we come in, we talk for 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden it's like, that was an hour. And so it is a beautiful experience. So thank you everyone who's watching. We don't have anyone coming for a free session today. So if you are watching the replay, join us live. It's Monday, 10 p.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time in the States. 10 a.m. Perth and Philippines time in Western on Tuesday mornings. Every week we're going to be here, hail, rain, or shine, no matter if we're just the two of us or 1,000. And we love coming together and taking these pauses, and would love to invite you to join us. And anyone who joins us live will get to go get a chance to have their Mayan Dreamspell Archetype broken down for them by Lee and I, which is always a lot of fun. So please do join us. And if you've watched the replay, chuck a comment. Let us know what you think and your thoughts on what it takes to walk this path of awakening. So with all my love in Lakesh, I'll hand you over to Lee to bring us in for a landing.
We are awakening. I've sang this song before, but it's so beautiful. I want to sing it again. From Devan Mitten. Beautiful words. Om Shanti. Shanti means peace. Sat Chitananda. Sat means truth. Chit means conscious awareness. And Ananda means bliss, the bliss of freedom. So sharing this song with everyone. Calling of the mystic awakening in the flowering of the heart, everybody melting into presence, overflowing effervescence, rising in love. Oh, Shanti, Sachita. Waves are coming in, everybody standing in wonder beneath the rain and the thunder, rising in love. Oh, Shanti, Sachidananda. Oh, Shanti. Perfect imperfection, awakening in the oneness of it all. Everybody, we are a part of each other, sisters and brothers, rising in love. Shanti, Sachidananda. blessings, blessings, blessings.